I've worked in digital technologies for over 25 years now. I built CD-ROMs, remember what they were, the first websites. I did the dot-com boom and then crash. And when my kids were small, I worked in research and development, which was a lot of sitting around and thinking about data. And now I work for a large technology company, and we're building out a corner of Digital UK, which turns out is quite important in our COVID and virtualized world, in our new role outside the European Union to build competitiveness and in order to support the green agenda. I also work with the UK government to support the rollout of the next generation of digital technologies. And it was in one of their board meetings a few years ago now that I had my oh shit moment. And I realized that I was really struggling to grapple with the power and the complexities of these technologies. What could they do? What were they already doing? And what were they going to be able to do? And the impact of that on our world, which certainly at that time was struggling to know what to do with Facebook. And I realized that if I was having these questions, having worked in the industry for all these years, then maybe other people were too. Professor Luciana Floridi of the Oxford Internet Institute observed that no previous generation has seen such an acceleration of technical power over reality, with consequent social change and ethical responsibilities. And I realized that I needed to find out the truth about technology, or at least my truth as a wife, a mother, a sister, a friend, not just somebody who worked in the industry. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, because I believe fundamentally we need to engage with this stuff. Technology is immensely powerful, and it has the ability to solve many of our current issues. Equally, if it's left alone, it will run amok. So to understand where we are now, we need to go back to where it all began. And the digital revolution started after the Second World War. The Sputnik and Russia's first atomic bomb made America very nervous about communism, and they spent billions of dollars trying to find ways to stay ahead. And they did amazingly well. They discovered all sorts of things, and they also discovered or invented the internet. And meanwhile, in the Nordics, they built out the two-way radios that they used during the war, and they built out a mobile phone network. And these two inventions gave us new ways to communicate. Meanwhile, to reinvigorate the post-war economy, investment in munitions moved to investment in consumer electronics. And in the labs at Texas Instruments, they invented the computer chip. And this became the basis of a huge industry, Silicon Valley, and of course now globally. And Intel was one of Silicon Valley's first and possibly most famous companies, and its founder, Robert Moore, famously said that the power of these chips would increase as their size decreased to enable increasingly sophisticated computer systems. And so it has been. These little chips are powerful computers in their own right, and they're not just in the machine on your desk, they're in your phone, in your car, in your washing machine, on the train, pretty well everywhere where you live and work. The World Wide Web put this all together to create a universal information system, which has rivaled the printing press in terms of importance, and it means that you can pretty well dial up whatever you want to know, wherever you are in the world, at the touch of a button. So these four technologies, data networks, the content and services that run on them, and the devices that you use to access them, have been in an almost continuous cycle of innovation ever since. So that an improvement in one link leads to improvements elsewhere in the chain. Let's use an example to illustrate that. Let's look at Netflix. So Netflix is a content service delivered over your internet or over your mobile phone. They make some pretty good shows. You like watching it. You watch more of it. That's good because you're asking for more data to come over the networks. That means that's more money for the network providers to build bigger and better network. So good, you need a bigger telly. You need a bigger phone. And that's good for the device makers. They can make bigger and better devices. And that means Netflix gets more money to make more shows, new people come along, iPlayer at Amazon. And that kind of cycle has been seen in many other industries as well, so that our world is very different now to when the first email was sent 50 years ago. So where are we now? We are in what the World Economic Forum calls the fourth industrial revolution. And I want to talk about two examples now which explain some of those social changes and ethical responsibilities. So artificial intelligence, probably something you will have heard about, at its core uses compute power to process large data sets. And it's been used in many companies, organizations across the world to speed up or automate or make existing processes more sophisticated. So you can see the mapping of weather systems, where you can see a weather front moving in slow motion. Or what Google has just done, which is to understand the structure of protein, which is the scientific achievement of our generation. It means that we can understand diseases and cure them, how we can break down industrial waste. The possibilities seem quite limitless at the moment. But artificial intelligence raises a host of ethical questions because a computer, by definition, has no morals, it has no empathy, it has no soul, it's not a human. And it's also based on a data set which, however good, will be imperfect because nothing is perfect. And therefore, you have to question what these computers are telling us. So when your mortgage company uses the algorithm to tell you whether you need a mortgage, is that right? Our sat-nav systems, they tell you to go this way or that way. Should we believe them? Should we believe the news that's served up on social media? Should we believe the ads that come in a search engine? All of these things are presented as fact, but they're just a version of the truth. And we have to think about how we use artificial intelligence and in what circumstances and for what gain. The second example I want to talk about is really probably our most pressing challenge, which is how to halve greenhouse gases and so limit temperature gains of 1.5 degrees. And I think we have to do that in 10 years, which is 2 business cycles, so not very far away. And green technology definitely has the potential to do that. Already you can track fish stocks, you can check carbon output on a per field basis. Incredibly powerful technologies, but as Deloitte reported, probably half of these technologies don't exist yet. And maybe a good proportion are still in the lab. They're not available for us to use. And we need to really improve the investment in green tech. We need to pump a lot of money into it pretty fast. But to do that, perhaps you might not do the due diligence that you would have done. Risk will increase. You might lose some money. And where does that sit with our shareholder value and turning a profit, the basis of our free market economy? Well, it doesn't really. And some enlightened companies are realizing now that the numbers are actually not the most important thing anymore. We have actually higher priorities, and that's very exciting. And the World Economic Forum, amongst others, is supporting that. But you can imagine the social changes that will come as our free market economy is questioned and challenged. So the truth about technology is it's really complex. Technology is a tool. You can use it for whatever you want. But powerful tools need management, and you need to use it in the right place, in the right time, and in the right way. And then you need to have a look at how it's working, and then you need to put some checks and balances in, and then you need to regulate it possibly. You need to keep an eye on it. But the march of technology is not stopping. The ship has sailed. The Luddites tried to stop it in the first industrial revolution, and they didn't do very well. So we need to engage. We need to understand how this stuff works. We need to lean in. We need to be fearless. We need to not let it pass us by or take it for granted, because these technologies will mold our future. We just need to make sure it's the future we want.